What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how I find my bias using inverse fair value gaps and opening range gaps. So the opening range gap is the gap made between the closing price at 4:15 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time and the opening price at 9:30 a.m. EST. So when the New York Stock Exchange opens, there is going to be a gap sometimes between the closing price at 4:15 and the opening price at 9:30, and this gap is most likely going to get filled throughout the day. And what I like doing is waiting for a sweep of liquidity, a fair value gap to get created in the same direction, an inversion to get created in the same direction as the opening range gap, so I can have an extra confirmation that tells me that okay, the bias is bullish, because yes, we swept sell side, yes, we're delivering from a bullish Peter array, yes, we're rejecting the lows perfectly and we're inversing that gap, but also we have that opening range gap that will act as a magnet. So right here in this case, you guys can see we swept a higher time frame sell side liquidity pool into a hourly fair value gap here. I'm on the 3-minute chart. Then you get the resweep here and you get your singular leg fair value gap inversion. That's exactly what we want to see. Also, you have the bias telling you, okay, you are rejecting the lows, you are rejecting sell side, you are delivering from a high time frame Peter array, but also you have your opening range gap that is still unfilled. That gives you an extra confirmation that you will win your trade and that you have more chances of winning your trade basically. So right here, what I like doing is on the 3-minute always enter on the pullback right here, stop loss below that candle's low, and I'm targeting the same kind of target when I'm trading inversions, but also the opening range gap here. So waiting for the pullback, I'm in buys, and then taking on my target as soon as we hit this internal high and the opening range gap. I'm gonna go and take a look at another possibility here. Let's go in that day. So you see here we have an opening range gap right here, and so we're basically waiting for price to inverse a gap in the opposite direction of the opening range gap so we can long towards it. So right here we gap down, so we want to be trading towards the gap, so we want to see bearish fair value gap disrespected to long towards that opening range gap. So right here you see we have sweep of internal sell side and we have an internal gap here on the 1-minute chart. Not a big gap, not necessarily a gap that I would trade and I'd like, but it's really for you guys to understand how to frame your bias using the opening range gap here. So right here you see we are disrespecting this gap, we are creating bullish order blocks, longing this inversion after the sweep of sell side here, the delivery from the fair value gap, and the inversion and the order block creation is not a bad idea. Why? Because you also have your opening range gap that will act as a magnet here. Okay, so you can long at this close, stop loss at the order block slow, nice 1-to-1 here. So get some heat here and boom, you hit that internal opening range gap. You get that opening range gap by clicking on RTH, so regular trading hours rather than electronic trading hours. Okay, let's go into another scenario right here again. So you have 9:30 open here and 4:15 p.m. close right here. So we have a big gap up day. But what is going to happen is most likely we're going to get down and fill at least 50% of that opening range gap. So what do I want to do? I want to find an inversion in the same direction as the fill of the gap. So right here we gapped up, so I want to fill the gap by price shooting down. So I want to find a bullish fair value gap that is getting inversed. So right here, you see we have an internal sweep at 9:30. We have a singular fair value gap on the 1 minute chart right here. We inverse that in a few minutes. Right here, we inverse that. We can go short and target stop loss above the high. You can even target, let's say, 50% of the opening range gap, or whatever you want, or just the internal lows. But in that case, let's say the gap is super big. I have a lot of confidence that we're gonna feel it. We swept a higher time frame buy side liquidity pool. Let's just go for 50% of that opening range gap, and let's see if we win this trade here. So this would be 50%, and I'll go short all the way to here. Stop loss above the high. You can see we go and fill this gap perfectly in. If we let price go again, it goes all the way and fill almost the entirety of this gap and starts reversing right after. Same thing. Let me just find another scenario here again. So you see here we have an opening range gap that is a gap down day. So we want to find an inversion, a bullish inversion to long towards that opening range gap, so we can feel the entirety of that opening range gap. So right here, you see we have that inverse on the 2 minute chart right here. Perfect 2 minute inverse. I call it the V signature. You're long from that, and you want to target the high of the opening range gap here. And in a few minutes you hit it. Alright, using inversions as an entry model and using the opening range gap as your bias will most likely help you find some high probability base hit scalps. Hopefully this video helped you out in some sort of ways, and I see you guys in the next one. Peace out.